Her hands were sweaty as the Lost Boys slid into the DVD player, as she stared down the barrel of doing something her parents would not approve of. All around her, the other girls argued over the relative merits of Jason Patrick versus Corey Haim versus Kiefer Sutherland, but Harry didn't join in. She was in love with the dark, with the Lost Boys swinging and flying under the railroad track, with the arterial spray of the first vampire attack, with the blood gushing from the sinks and spattering all over the house. She relished the thrumming of her heart, the pulse of her own blood, the terror and the splendor, and the excitement she'd never felt before. When the movie was over, she felt reborn. Reborn as an addict seeking another thrill. She didn't know how she would find it again, how such a visceral pleasure would ever be allowed in a home where pleasure of any kind was a sin. She began to sneakily read copies of Fangoria magazine whenever she saw them, at the corner store when she was sent out to buy milk, or at the bookstore when her mother wasn't paying attention. As she entered high school and she got a job of her own, making ice cream cones on Sundays at Dairy Queen after school, she had more time and money to do what she liked, to stop and buy those copies of Fangoria on the way home and ferret them away between her mattress and box spring, taking them out only when everyone else in the house was asleep, and scanning the pages, flashlight in hand, seeing hints of worlds where she still wasn't permitted to travel. Places where regular people were flesh-eating cannibals, or writers accidentally opened portals to terrible universes, or alien creatures stalked a prison world. She wanted more. She always wanted more and more and more, but it wasn't until she made her escape, when she became Harry Adams and left Harriet Ann Shore behind forever, that she could have all the terror she wanted. And then some. 1. It was the size of the house that got Harry every time she saw it. Of course, she'd seen houses that size before in certain neighborhoods around Chicago. Giant houses whose sheer enormity should have relegated them to the suburbs. This city house wasn't a McMansion, though. One of those classless boxes bulging oversized dwellings for those who wanted to display their money, or at least their debt. It was decidedly not new, not the province of some futures broker or investment banker. It had the same graystone face as her own 2-flat apartment building, a 15-minute bus ride and half a world away, economically speaking. But it was twice the size. The house covered 2 lots with a third lot for a side yard. As an apartment dweller, she didn't often contemplate property taxes, but just the fact of those 3 lots made queasy multi-digit numbers dance before her eyes. The building was 3 stories plus a basement level. The windows were tall on the lowest story, less so on the second one, and downright tiny on the topmost, giving the overall effect of slowly closing eyes if you glanced from the bottom to the top. Other than the oddly sized windows, there were no particular architectural flourishes, save 2. At the northeast corner of the roof, a sculpture protruded like a Notre Dame gargoyle, a horse's head and neck carved in stone, the horse's lips pulled back, its eyes wild. All around the horse, stone flames rose, waiting to burn. Harry thought she'd grimace too if she was trapped in fire for all eternity. In addition to the frantic stallion, there was a name carved in an arc above the door. Bright Horses. The entire property was surrounded by a 10-foot-high black iron fence. The only 2 entry points were the gate in front of her and the sliding gate in front of the garage in the back. Harry reached toward the call box so she could be buzzed in, but paused as she heard her phone chirp in her pocket. She pulled it out and saw a text from her son, Gabe. "Forgot my chem report. It's on my desk," followed by a praying hands emoji. "Already at work," she texted back, and tacked on the woman shrugging and holding her hands up. She only worked 3 days a week, so if Gabe had tried on a different day, she might have hopped the bus and brought his report to him. Maybe. Part of her thought he needed to learn the consequences of not thinking ahead and putting the report in his bag the night before. The other part of her wanted